Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz.
So who the France is on this episode, I hear you all ask? Well, I'll tell you what, before we introduce him, let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. What the France? What a fantastic collection that is. Absolutely amazing. Fantastic collection. But before I introduce my next guest, I just want to say there are not many things in life that make me smile. My wife, my friends, my family, my collection, the occasional wind, and Liverpool Football Club. Now, it is my pleasure, yes, my pleasure, to say that this guy's channel is added to that list of things that make me smile. Absolutely delighted to welcome Shabby Geek to the channel. How you doing, Shabby?
Hello, mate. I agree with everything you said except for the last part. I'd never heard of that team at the end of it. So
I thought you meant. So. I thought you meant the wind. I thought you meant the wind.
No. Hey, pal. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Absolutely. Listen, absolute pleasure having you on the channel, mate. Thank you so much for doing this, taking the time out. So, you all good?
Yeah, fine. Everything's going great here. We've just done a couple more videos. We've got my kids caused a sensation on YouTube and in Twitter last year because we watched Predator for the first time and my kids hated it. They said it was boring, and it caused this. Yeah, and I was like, we did this thing on our channel called Five. We do a thing every 6 months or so called 5 Nights at Shabby's, and this one was a 5 movie nights at Shabby's.
Yeah,
I did it with my 2 oldest kids, and we had this big, huge popcorn box, and what you have to do is you have to pick out 80s movies. And I got in touch with all the lads, and we had everything in there. So one of them, we pick out Predator, and I was like, they're going to love this. They're going to love it. And both of them gave it 0 out of 10 and all that. But this week, we're going to be doing Predator. We're going to be doing Predator 2 because I've not seen Predator 2. So.
Oh, have you not? Oh, okay. Well, there you are. I personally, I prefer the first one. I think it's the best one out of the whole lot.
Yeah, my kids thought it was boring, and I was like, "How's it boring?" And weird kids.
that is outrageous. Yeah. Anyway, right. So I'm assuming you've seen these before. So what it is, I've got 10 questions about you and your collection and stuff like that. So take as long as you want answering them. We run time's roughly about an hour. It doesn't matter if we go over. So we're going to crack on with the first question. What are your childhood memories and what toy lines were you into?
I've got a few childhood memories, but there's a few of them, Stu, that you know, you probably have this yourself, that really stand out. You know, when you think about toy collecting, you think about toys themselves. There's a couple of memories that, you know, when we were kids, really stood out. I'm from Blackpool, and they used to have this big, huge department store called Lewis's. So it was built right on the seafront, more or less next to Blackpool Tower. But this thing was your old school department store. You know, you'd have your clothes, you'd have this, you'd have that, and they'd have this huge glass bay window. And when we were kids, they'd always display it. And then there's 2 I'll always remember. First of all was Star Wars. I mean, the Star Wars one, all done in Palatoy, all, you know, your Falcon and your X-Wing. And that to us was absolutely fantastic. But the second one, for some reason, I don't know whether it's the colours or not, do you remember Gem in the Holograms? It was a girls' line. It was all dolls, or it's like rock and roll dolls, and it was all neons and pinks and really bright colours. Well, they had this display of that, and that's one of my vivid memories. That was just seeing this huge doll production of Gem and the Holograms, and it was all over the place. And so I fell in love with toys since I was a kid. You know, I have 3 brothers, and there's 5 years between us. So even though we were getting out of toys, they were getting into them as well. So I remember Brave Star, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. Some of those lines I didn't have myself because we were getting a bit older, but they were always in my house. And the second memory I have is there was one Christmas. I think it's got to be 84 because of what we had. And we'd come downstairs, and my mum and my dad had got all the Star Wars. So I don't remember what figure was my first in Star Wars, or you know, the card, because as I got older, and I asked her, you know, I said, where did you get all this stuff from? She said the bloke down the road was selling it all. These kids weren't interested in it, blah, blah, and it was all practically new. But we'd come downstairs Christmas Day, and the floor was just covered in it. Do you know what I mean? Wow. Everything was there, but the only thing that wasn't there was 2 things: was a B-wing and an Imperial shuttle. But apart from that, everything else was there, figures galore. So that was one of my favorite memories. So it was Star Wars for me as a kid, Masters of the Universe, G1 Transformers, that kind of thing. I was born in 75, so I was around 10 or 11, 84, 85 when most of these lines came out. So
awesome stuff. So what I liked when you said about that shop Lewis's, I mean, we didn't have it down where we were, but we had like Debenhams and House of Fraser, or Army and Navy as it was known at the time. and their toy departments, especially Christmas time and the Christmas displays they had up, that is that's a vivid memory that I have when you walk into these department stores and you just go into their toy departments and stuff like that, and you just got everything lined up for Christmas and stuff like that. It was absolutely fantastic, and they don't do that now. I mean, you can go into, well, Debenhams has gone, Woolies has gone, you know, so all these big toy stores, well, they weren't toy stores, department stores that you had, and the toy shops now, they don't really do that, do they? They don't set up. Or
no, and the funniest thing about that, Stu, is the fact that you know, even as people our age now that collect toys, it doesn't really matter if it's vintage or modern. It's to do with purely nostalgia. It's to do with, you know, things you had as a kid. One of the biggest things about nostalgia as a child was seeing all these toys in the stores. Racks and racks up to, you know, you were a lot small, obviously, back then. So it looked like it was 12 foot high, just full of everything.
Yeah.
And that, to me, has always been one of my favourite nostalgia memories, is the fact that you'd walk into it doesn't matter if it was BT's, Toy Master, doesn't matter if it was a department store, that kind of thing. It was always packed. And somewhere along the line, that has gone. And it's a shame, really, because a lot of people turn around about the kids. Oh, well, kids don't really play with toys anymore, Shabby. Well, they kind of do. They just can't find them. You know, it's hard to explain to my 9-year-old, oh, well, I'll pre-order it for you. You'll get it in 8 months. It doesn't hit the same. So
it doesn't, does it? Because back then you wanted something for Christmas and you could go and get it, or you wanted the latest Star Wars figure, and you knew that when the movie was out, the figures would be out. Apart from Star Wars, it would be out roughly before the movies hit the theaters, and you could go into a store or a toy shop, and those figures would be there, and they would be there in plentiful supply. I mean, you live in America, so how do you find the difference between the toy stores in America to over here, or even the department stores?
I think it depends, really, because it's the same as England, as where there's loads of independent stores. So there is toy shops or vintage toy shops. I mean, me, Scuba, G4, there's a few lads, we've all been together and we've all gone to these places, and they are cool. But your main stores, like your Walmart and Target, for several years now, it's just not been good at all. I mean, you've probably seen it in the video, especially in our community, where someone will go to a Target or Walmart and they'll just film it, and there's nothing in there. Nothing. You know, you just made a point before about, oh, you could get loads and loads of figures, and there's roads. And there was never a thing when we were kids, like I couldn't get a Luke Skywalker, or I couldn't get this, so I had to pay 3 times. You always got it. Every shop got 4 or 5 at least of them, you know, and they were always well stocked up. And over here now, I can't remember, and this is no word of a lie, the last time I saw 3 different Black Series in a shop, in Target, in Walmart, which is weird, because you hear a lot of Americans talk about the Toys R Us, say, oh, Toys R Us was so good, it's such a shame. I would have thought that Walmart or Target would have clapped their hands together. This is fantastic, they've gone, so now we'll get it all. And it never happened. You know, I think the last time I ever saw a full range, say, for example, Star Wars, was 2015, was Force Awakens. And that was a great time, because I'd gone to Toys R Us and they had that Fan First Friday. And it was one of those rarities now that the actual figures were out. The 5 POA figures were out before the film was. So we're buying Rey and Finn and Poe, and like, whoa, who are these? And that was a brilliant experience, because it was exactly the same as it was as when we were kids. But ever since then, it's died off completely. I mean, the stores aren't, they're getting there. And a lot of people have said, oh, well, it's because of the pandemic we've just been through. But this is before the pandemic. I remember that these shops haven't been busy for at least 5-6 years when it comes to toys.
Do you think, as far as Star Wars is concerned, it was The Last Jedi?
It's hard to say, and I used to think that, but I mean, I don't like The Last Jedi. I'm not a fan of it at all. I came out of it Norman. But the fact of the matter is, I wasn't one of those gents that's going to turn my back on Star Wars. It's been with me since I was a kid. 80% of my collection is Star Wars. There's no way I'm going to turn my back on it. And then when you look at The Mandalorian and how big that was and brought new fans in, and everyone was getting back, it's very hard to think that film ruined it in a way. Do you see what I mean? The ruined the way toy franchises. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean,
online.
I think online and pre-orders more or less ruined it. You know, I think that's, and I think the more and more we keep buying these $500-600 toys and pre-ordering and all that, the more and more they don't have to put them in the stores anymore. You know, because they'll carry on doing it that way. I mean, I saw the cell barge, and the cell barge was absolutely fantastic. But there was a time where you would find something like that in the stores. I mean, obviously you're not going to anymore, but it's yeah. So I can't really say it was the sequel movie, because for all those that don't like it, there's all those that do like it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So, no, I get that. I get that.
So they'll still be buying it and so forth. But I mean, the amount of figures, the wave after wave. I'm a big Black Series fan, and the amount of waves that came out, Stu, and I just never saw them. Just never saw them in the stores. And it's like, this is so, I will give you an example. My last 25 Black Series, I would probably say 20 of them have come from the UK. My brother has got older. He's walked into Smith's. He's walked into a toy store over there, seen it, sent it to me over here. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
That is mad. That is absolutely mad. You were saying about, like, you were into like G1 Transformers, Master of the Universe. What was your favorite toy line and why?
Star Wars is going to be my favorite toy line, and I think again it's because I had three brothers that all loved it just as much as me. So the memories weren't just of me playing with it on my own; it's playing with three lads on my own. And then when you have as much merchandise as Star Wars came out with, you could have a proper good toy day with it. Your brothers, you'd be the so. Yeah, it meant the world to me, Star Wars, as a kid. I remember going seeing Return of the Jedi. I was 8, 9 when I see Return of the Jedi. It was just Luke in his black outfit. I mean, it just even now at 46, it blew me away. I just couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? There he is, and it's just that image has stuck with me all the way through. So Star Wars was definitely my first. I think most of us start off with Star Wars, and especially our ages, our generation. We'll start off with Star Wars and move on from there. But yeah, definitely Star Wars.
So, but you're still into other lines now, aren't you? Like you still, I see you do. I mean, because you recently just got quite a bit of is it Playmobil?
Playmobil I've got hold of. Masters I've got the Motor Origins to me, that came out in 2020. And I think it came out at a perfect time. I think at the time then, I mean, we were in a pandemic and so forth, but the way Black Series was going and the prizes that they were going up to, and we're talking a figure that had been out 3 or 4 months that's nearly trebled the price with scalpers because it was so hard to get hold of. I don't think I will never turn my back on Black Series, but I was, if you watch me all the time on live streams and so forth, and I was getting really frustrated. This isn't what toy collection should be about. I've never been a person that, wants an exclusive just for me. I want everyone who wants to collect to have the opportunity to collect, and I think people coming into this, looking at Black Series and seeing that these figures are going for $50, $60, and they're like, well, it's a bit too pricey for me. So I wanted something where I could play with my 2 younger children with. I wanted, a toy line to come out where I think, well, if they come into the toy room, they can play with them. And they came Motor Origins. And to me, it's I've got to admit, my friend, it's got to be one of the best toy lines that's come out in years. I mean, the price of them, the quality of them, the play factor of them, the way they display all that right behind me is all Motor Origins. But then the kids will play with them, and if for some reason a weapon is lost or an army's broke, whatever, we're talking $15, $16 to buy it again, and they're so much more accessible than Black Series has been for years. Playmobil came along over the simple reason was the licenses. I'd never had Playmobil as a kid. It wasn't something I was interested in. I remember my cousins having it. They had a hospital set, and I thought, that's so cool. But I'm talking years ago. And Playmobil over here, I don't know whether it's a big American thing. You can't, a lot of people have assumed that it's in Walmart and Target. It isn't. You can't buy Playmobil like you can buy a Lego. I think Barnes and Nobles, which is a bookstore, carries Playmobil over here. Well, it sounds a bit hypocritical me saying this, but I'd walked in the Walmart. The only time I'd ever seen a Playmobil was the DeLorean, Back to the Future DeLorean in Walmart, and they had it on sale at 26. And I always used to walk past this and say, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then I think it went down to like $19. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to buy it. Even if I don't like it, and give it the kids. I can make a video on it. So I brought it home, and that was it. That was it. Yeah. I ended up getting the complete set of Back to the Future for Playmobil. Then I went and got the Scooby-Doo, then the Firehouse and the Ecto-1. Same thing again. I mean, it's a little bit more pricey because it's licensed now. So these are licensed products. But I would have paid $50-$60 for that DeLorean. It was
really
fun. Yeah, it's nice to get something different. And I've noticed, if you watch Reynolds reviews or VTR's always been the same way, really. But a lot of us in the community that have basically grown together all these past few years, we're all doing it. We're all getting into different lines and trying out different things now. So whereas we all started off more or less as Star Wars channels, we've all kind of not moved on, but now showing other things in our collection. And I think it's good. It's a fresh approach instead of sat there moaning all night about Star Wars and Black Series and the vintage collection and all that. It's nice just to get back to the reason why we all collect and try something else. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I know. I mean, because I originally started. It was collecting the original Kenner line vehicles and the figures and stuff like that, and I just started off getting a couple a month and stuff like that. And then, so I had, I'd say, quite a biggish collection with original vintage Kenner stuff. And then like 2020 hit, and then I'd, like everybody else, just jump on YouTube because I didn't know what to do, sort of thing. But I couldn't do anything. And then I saw like the vintage line, the vintage collection, Black Series. I was like, wow. And so the channels that I've seen and that I'm subscribed to and stuff like that, and the guys that I follow, they have a big influence on me collecting what I collect at the moment. I mean, yourself. I mean, you did that Batman 66 place there. As soon as I saw that, I was like, right, ordered that, ordered these and stuff like that. And it's just sitting over my shoulder now. Well, I don't know if you can see it. It's back there somewhere. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It really is. And it's such a fun place.
And the funny thing is about that, well, it's that Bat Cave. I never assumed it was all plastic. I thought it was cardboard and all that. So, and the thing is, if you remember the actual old 1960s TV set, it was all made out of plastic. You know, when you look at it now, so that display's perfect. Do you know what I mean? And I took pictures of it. And Mary's getting into it. Because Mary's got a couple of it.
I saw that. And I was like, oh, for God's sake! And then just recently, I've seen someone like chatting to someone last week, and they've got the Topps play cards or Topps trading cards. So we went to a toy fair yesterday and ended up buying the two sets, the whole complete set of the red and the blue set, and for a fairly decent price. So I've got both sets of these now. Topps trading cards. So that's, which way is that up? Yeah. So pretty cool.
That's awesome. That is cool. Yeah.
So you guys, you influence people a lot. You probably don't realize how much you guys influence people and stuff. Like that. I'm very.
Luke made a video this morning. Reynolds made a video this morning about it, and he was saying how you influence other people, and it's funny because I think there's so many toy lines. It's like when he said Thundercats today, and I was like, oh, I loved Thundercat, but it's because it's something you don't really collect now. It tends to fall in the back. I mean, one of my favorites as a kid, which was, really was obscure, was the Adventures of Galaxy Rangers. I loved the Galaxy Rangers figures. I loved the cartoon. I like cowboys in space. I thought this thing is fantastic. And I remember a friend of ours was at the Leicester Vintage Toy Shop, and he sent me a picture. And he still had Joe there had some carded, and I was like, what the France, look at that. Do you know what I mean? So it's funny how we always do that. We'll say something, and then we'll think, oh, I'll just have a look at that and see, and then you find one and you think, oh yeah, I'll start getting into this.
It's a dangerous game, isn't it? You get so hooked so quickly. So with your toys from your childhood, do you have any of your original toys from your childhood?
My vintage Star Wars right there. I kept hold of most of them. It's funny because I did what everybody else did. I've always collected, but then obviously, as you know, Stu, you grow older, you get married, you have your kids and all that sort of stuff. And I remember I'd always collected stuff, but I'll never forget it. I remember going after work, and my wife, when we were back in England, and she said she needed something from, I don't know, toilet roll, or I don't know what it was. But I ended up stopping off at B&M Bargains. And I remember walking in there, and it was the first time in years I'd actually seen a Star Wars car back. I saw the vintage collection Sand Trooper.
Yeah.
I was just blown up. This was 2010, 2011, around there. And I just thought, I don't believe this. I haven't seen this since I was a kid, and it all come flooding back. So I didn't buy it that day. I didn't like it. It wasn't as if it, but I remember going home, and my mum lives just around the corner. We didn't have a dad growing up, so money was tight in our house, which means that it was. I don't know if it was the same for yourself or not, Stu, but it was usually birthdays and Christmas, and if you did well on an exam or whatever, you get your toys. So we looked after our toys as kids. You know, we didn't. You know, it wasn't as if we broke something, my mum would be able to go out the next day and buy it. You know, so we made sure everything was spotless. And my mum's a big pop culture enthusiast herself, and so she never threw any of our toys out, any of them. And our Simon's just told me they've just found late 80s, early 90s WWF Hasbro figures, a whole bag full of, and I was like, and muscle men. Do you remember the little pink muscle men?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
A whole bag of them purely from the 80s. My mum would just, once we'd finished with it, she'd put them in a box, she'd put them in the loft. That was it. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And I remember going round and saying to her, Mum, have you still got some of those Star Wars? And she said, yeah, they're upstairs. And so I went upstairs, opened it all up, and there they were. So I thought, I'll just finish off collecting them, really. So, and I'm glad I did, because I don't think I could do it now, to be honest. I mean, it's the prices of them have just gone sky high, haven't they? So,
yeah, no, that's amazing. I my big regret is getting rid of my Star Wars figures, my original ones from back in the day. It's but so this really does lead into which is good because it leads into the next question. When did you realize, or when did you become aware that you were a toy collector? Because like you said, we get to a certain age, we get to our early teens, we lose interest in toys and stuff like that, and we try and act grown up and do grown up things, and then go off in our different ways and stuff like that. So when did you realize that you were a toy collector?
I think, going back to that story, that like I said, when I saw that Sand Troop and I bought it, and then I went back and I bought, because I was thinking about it for days after, and then I bought more. Then obviously Power of the Force I started to get into, then vintage collecting and started to. So I think back then was the actual time I thought, you know what, I'm doing something about this, because I'd always collected but never had a toy room. So in other words, if I went out and saw something that I liked, say for example there was a statue of a Megatron, or there was a comic book I liked, and I'd buy the one or two things. Usually what would happen is you'd look at it and then you'd toss it to one side. But I think the early 2000, well, I'd say mid 2000 and about 2010, 2011 was, I thought, no, I'll get a toy room. And I just went mad from there, really. And this is like, you know, I mean, I've still got a huge collection still in England that it's not even come over with me yet. You know,
really?
Half my Star Wars vehicles are all there, and you know, I'll get over here first, and then I said I'll just keep getting little pieces here and there, and I'll do it that way. But yeah, I still got so much over there. But I think around 2010 was the time I thought, yeah, this is it. I'm a definite collector, and I've loved it ever since. I've never been embarrassed by it, you know, and I've never shielded behind the fact that it's a nostalgia thing. You hear some lads that they'll turn around and say things like, "Oh, it's." You know, I just love I had this as a kid, and so well, yeah, we also had it as a kid. But I'm more, I would say, 90% a modern collector. So most of this I didn't have as a kid. Do you know what I mean? You can't say we had Black Series as a kid. And even vintage collection looks nothing like the figures that we had. So I've always classed myself as a toy collector, and I'm very proud of it. I think it's a nice, healthy, you know, thing to collect. You can get your family involved. We've made such a massive, brilliant community, and we've met globally so many like-minded people. What's there not to like? You know what I mean? But
well, that's it. Definitely. No, I love what you're saying there. Well, I'll go back like 2010. I remember first seeing the vintage collection, but then I saw Darth Maul and Emperor from Revenge of the Sith, and I thought, that's not vintage. You know, I want the original figures on the card, so I kind of turned away from them and didn't really sort of collect them, and just carried on collecting the vintage Kenner. So I missed out on a few good years of that. But going back to what you said about not being embarrassed by it, there was a long time where I kept it really quiet, and I didn't want sort of anybody to know. It was like a very private thing that I collected, and I didn't want anybody to know, because you know it wasn't. You know, people say things, and I just didn't want that. It was something that I wanted for myself, so I kept it to myself. So I didn't go saying to everybody that I was a toy collector or collected toys and stuff like that. So, and it's only recently until I started seeing you guys on the channel and started being a bit more open and stuff, and being a bit more easygoing about letting people know about my collections and stuff like that. So, but it's a personal thing, and I know what people are like, especially. You know, they are, you know, big kid and stuff like that, and he plays with toys and stuff like that. And then, do you know what I mean? I just didn't want that. I wanted something that I could do and enjoy, because I knew that if people were going to start saying it, then I'll start doubting myself, and then I'll be like, well, You know, is it worth it? Do I enjoy doing it? And do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and I think it also depends with the people around you too. Do you know? That's the way I look at it. I mean, I did suits for 20 years. You know what I mean? I was in the suit game and so forth. So I never really. It's not a case of I never really told anybody about my collection because I was embarrassed. It had nothing really to do with what I did for a living, and the lads I worked with, you knew for a fact they weren't going to be toy collectors. Do you see what I mean? But I think the way we've surrounded ourselves by like-minded people over the past 2 or 3 years, especially, you know, I've always said it. I've said it in a couple of my videos too. That it's been a really bad couple of years with the pandemic, but it's also been fantastic. I would hate. That's why I always laugh and joke in my videos and give it more of a positive feeling, because I would hate anybody out there, you know, in especially in our community, it doesn't feel welcome, or doesn't feel like they belong, or doesn't feel like. I've always said it, Stu. I don't care if you've got a bookshelf. I don't care if you've got a small shelf. If you've got a collection, you want to be involved in us with us, lot. Get involved, man. You know, it's.
I mean, you made me feel really welcome on your channel, and I've only been on YouTube for a few weeks, so I really appreciated that. But that's why I love doing this, and I don't want it solely to be with people on YouTube channels, or have got like the big YouTube channels. I like talking to anybody. So everybody's welcome on this series and stuff like that. And everybody's collections are different. I understand that, but everybody's collection is personal to them. And that's why I love doing this series. You just see so many different collections. It could be Star Wars, it could be G.I. Joe, it could be all sorts of stuff. Everybody's different, and that's why I do this. And I just, you know, really love doing this and chatting to people. And it is a community thing, isn't it?
Well, to me, it's always about learning too. I mean, you look at Scuba's collection, and I know you've had Scuba on, and as you know, I'm very close with Scuba Pete. But then you look at his collection, you see his big USS flag. He never had that as a kid, or the Defiant, or this or that. Yeah. So one of the nicest things about this, especially being toy collectors, that's why again I've never classed myself as, you know, a Star Wars vintage or this or that. Because you could sit and watch a Scuba Pete video, or get to know him, or talk to him on Twitter or Instagram and so forth, and learn all about G.I. Joe. I know nothing about G.I. Joe. You know, when I was a kid, I've said it a few times on our stream, I can't even remember G.I. Joe as a kid. Maybe I remember Action Force, and I was really into Action Force, and I had a few of them. But so that's the thing, or Turtles, or, you know, there's a few things that I've learned getting to know like-minded people. And so this is it. You know, I knew exactly right what you've said, my friend, about it doesn't really matter if you've got a YouTube channel or not, because there's that many people that we've had on ours that will come on, that we've met through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and then the minute they've got a camera on and you look behind them and you're like, wow, man, I mean, look at that. Do you know what I mean? It's so, I agree with you. I mean, there's some people out there that don't really want to do YouTube, but they want to be part of this community. So I understand it.
Definitely. So moving on to the next question, what is the most prized piece in your collection? The bit that if you had to take with you somewhere and you could only take it, that part, what would it be?
There's two.
Is there?
There's two for me. I mean, one is my Falcon. I mean, I love my vintage Millennium Falcon. It's spotless. It's still got the Jedi. It's still got the original string gold in the Jedi. I treated that thing like it was gold. You know what I mean? It was to me, it's the greatest. I mean, it doesn't matter how many other toys we collect and how many things that we've got and so forth. That will always be, to me, the greatest toy ever. I mean, it was just, you remember yours as a kid, it was used for everything, you know what I mean? Whether it's in the bath with you, or it's outside covered in soil, or it's, you know, this thing was battered to pieces. So I absolutely love it. But my second thing is a present I got about 18 months ago off a gentleman called John Baldry. And I'd never had an Imperial shuttle, ever. I don't know whether it's something my mum couldn't afford. I don't know whether it's, you know, I'd never even seen one. But it's one of my favourite ships in Star Wars. This triangular vehicle, you know, the way it landed on Endor and the way you see Vader come out of it to go to the Death Star at the start of Return of the Jedi. I just thought this is the coolest thing ever. And I never got older one. And as I got older, and, you know, you start making a bit more money and putting, you know, and there's always something, I'll buy one this week, and, oh, well, it's there, but it's not complete, or it's a bit too much. So for 20 plus years, I've been after this Imperial shuttle, and I never, ever got one, you know. I got a present, a big box, and it was one of my videos. That's how Usual Mike had found it, and that's how I got involved with all them, because I got this box sent by John, and it was the 2004 mold of the Imperial shuttle, and it it blew me away for a few reasons, really. So one of the reasons why that's so cherished is it might not necessarily be the 84, 83 version, but for someone to take the time out to get me one of those from his personal collection, that's complete, that's, you know, and then send it to me and that kind of thing. It means the world to me. So I keep every gift, and I'm very, very grateful of everything that people send us at Shabby's. But that Imperial Shuttle will just always have a soft spot because it's something I've always wanted, and someone out there went out and got it for me. I just thought, wow, man,
that is absolutely quality. I mean, it is a great vehicle. I mean, I remember I was scouring for one on eBay, and there's one come up in the States for quite a decent price, and I was like, oh. And I'm laying it, and of course because there's a time difference between where we are and where this guy was, and I was like, oh god, and it was coming up 1 o'clock in the morning over here. And Mrs. goes, you all right? I said, yeah. So I'm really thinking about it, and I do. It's just a good price, and she goes, right, where is it? Whatever. And we just messaging each other. This guy on the eBay, and I ended up pulling the plug, or not pulling the plug, pulling the trigger and buying it. And I just, it's a fantastic ship. It is a fantastic ship.
It's just amazing, and it's funny as well because we're now we have our own furniture. But well, you've seen it. You're on my page. You've seen the furniture we make and everything else. And so every time we go out to either an estate sale or a flea market or a thrift shop, I always say, "Today's the day. Today's the day I find it." You know what I mean? And I've been thinking that for the past 15 years, and it never happens. And then now I don't have to. Somebody sends it.
Awesome.
You know, I don't know whether you think the same way though, because I just don't look at these as toys either. I look at these things in my collection as memories, you know, like you would a song or a smell. You look around your collection, Stu, and you'll see who sent it you, or where you were when that came, and how old your kids were, and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So they mean a lot to me, all these toys. They really do.
Oh, no, definitely. It's absolutely awesome. I mean, that shuttle, that was definitely one of my grail pieces, which, ironically, moves us on to the next question. Do you have a grail piece that you want? Any piece that you want and you wouldn't mind paying a tidy buck for?
Well, it was the Imperial Shuttle, but obviously, even though, like I said, it's exactly the same mold as the 80s one, so that's fine. I don't know. I mean, I've always been partial to the Eternia playset, and I know there's a certain gentleman, I might not say because he'll probably make a video on it, in our community that's just got one.
Okay.
And he's just showing me the pictures of it, and I'm like, oh, you know, it was such a rarity, that, and it's something that I never had as a kid. So the Eternia playset would probably be one of them. B-Wing, probably. I've never had a B-Wing, ever.
Really?
Never had one. No, never had a B-Wing. So I'd probably say B-Wing or Y-Wing, sorry. Those two things are never, so that'd probably be a holy grail. But if I was going to get one of them, I'd have to get the vintage one, because obviously, you know, it's something I never had as a kid, and it'll go with my figures and that kind of thing. So,
you ever thought of like doing a restoration, just like buying a shell and then just getting the bits over a certain amount of time, or is that something that doesn't interest you? Or are you one of these people who've got to have it there and then?
No, I mean, there's a few. I think we've all have that. There's a few things that we have in our collection that's missing something. My Endo Village, I've got the original Endo Village at the top there. Yeah. Can you see it? And it's missing. I did a video on it about a year ago, and it's missing a couple of things. And everyone says, "Oh, Shabby, I'll find you these on the eBay and that," and I never get round to actually doing it. I don't know whether I'm a completist for that. Do you know what I mean? Like it would play my mind until it was completed. So no, not really. I mean, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't.
No, I mean, again, my wife got a indoor playset, the treehouse and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like a shell. So we had the bits and bobs, and then over the last probably about 4 or 5 years, we've been just getting bits every now and again. Every time we go to a toy fair, we'll find a bit. And I think the only thing we got to do now is get the top of the spit, top of that, and the connector that goes around the netting, which connects to the top of the treehouse. That's
the little T part. It's a little T part in it that comes through. I still need that part. I think I need the drum, and I need 2 parts of the rail. And I think I've got the spit part, and one of the ends to hold the spit up. I'm missing the other end of the spit. So,
oh mate, I tell you, we went to a toy fair. I think it was this time last year, and the guy had the net. He had the T bit and the bit that connected to it, and he had the post, and you wanted near enough 100 quid for the lot.
That's what I mean. I mean, well,
That's a lot,
there's another thing too. You know, I'm you know, we have a business. We have 4 children. They're all getting to that. You know, my 2 older ones. One's just finished. He's going to college. The next. So you've got to watch your money. So I've always been one of those people as well. I suppose. You know, when you say, for example, you have $100, just hypothetically. I always think to myself, well, what can I get for that $100? You know, I could go out and buy 2 Black Series. I could buy a Moto Origins. I could buy a Playmobil set. I could buy 1 stick to go with an Endo Village. Do you see what I mean? So that's probably one of the reasons as well why I love vintage to bits. But I think as collectors and I think as adult collectors, we've got to be a bit more, you know, responsible sometimes. I'm not, and I think that works as well for somebody like me, is because when I do get my money to buy what I want, it's more exciting buying the things that you want. I would hate to have all the money in the world so I can just buy anything. I think that's the enjoyment's gone then. I think that reminds you of this kid where your mum will give you your pocket money. So say, for example, you got a £5, and then what can you buy with that £5? Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah. Well, you could buy a lot in those days, couldn't you, for a £5?
Yeah, so bloody could, yeah.
Yeah, bloody hell. But I mean, the story ended where I was about to pay for this, and I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll pay that." And my missus like, "No, it's okay. It's fine. You know, this." So she talked me out of it. So that saved me a few. Well,
what's your grail? What is something that you would love to have in your collection?
For me, it's always been the vintage collection A-wing on the Rebels.
Yeah, nice. I got the Power of the Force one, but I've never got
that as well. Yeah. I've never had that, and I've seen it once. I went to Echo Live last year, and there was one in an acrylic case and stuff like that with the box, and it just looked. And I looked at the price, and I was just like, nah.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah,
it is, and it's the same as like trying to get stuff from the States. I mean, you're paying a premium price anyway, because I got the sale barge off of eBay, because I missed out on it first time out, so I got it from a guy in the States. So he sold it for nearly, well, over double the price of what it was originally worth anyway at retail or on the crowdfunder. And then on top of that, you've got import tax, which was a heavy whack, and then you've got postage and packaging, which was another heavy whack. So I mean, that in there, the sale barge was a lot of money, and and that's why I tend not to try and get too much from the States, because it's just the shipping and the import tax, especially
over here. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that because I'll send stuff to England, and it costs me more than the actual thing I'm sending most of the time, and I'm just like, it's, you know, for some, it's funny that because I just got a huge box from Australia, and that was nearly a third less of what I'd spend if I was sending the same box to England. It's just so expensive to send over here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was thinking about like doing a restoration project and getting the US flag, but I was thinking about doing it in bits, and I think I was chatting with someone, and they were saying, well, that's going to cost you an absolute fortune, because I mean, I've looked on the UK site, and I cannot see anything from the US flag at all over in this country. So to do that, I'd have to get it from the States, and I mean, that's not small. I mean, you get the bits of decking and stuff like that.
7 foot, it's massive. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a no-go. So I'm hoping HasLab do a US flag in the future.
I would. I mean, that was what I've always said. I mean, you know, you look at Scuba's collection and you see that, you know, and then you watch all the videos on G.I. Joe. And I always said if G.I. Joe was available, I think that would have been my favorite thing. I mean, look at the vehicles and the accessories and everything from tents to tanks. Do you know what I mean, Stuart? There was nothing this toy line didn't make. And then it's not until you've seen the flag and you watch it on videos, but it's not until you actually see one and you think, I don't think it would have fit in my front room in Blackpool. This thing is huge.
No, exactly. I mean, I didn't even, as a kid, I was into G.I. Joe because my friend was heavily into it, and he had a lot of the stuff, and I thought his collection was quite big at the time. But we didn't even realise that there was a US flag. We didn't even realise it was a Defiant, you know? And because back in those days, what you guys had in America was totally different to what we got over in the UK, and sometimes we never had any of that stuff at all. So, you know, to find out that they did a flag and the size of it, and some of the work that people have put into it were put in the underlay, and like Scuba's himself. I mean, that is just phenomenal with all the different decks, the lighting and stuff like that. It's absolutely tremendous, really is. So, next question. If you could only pick one toy line to collect, what would it be and why? So you've got a choice of all the toy lines that you're collecting at the moment, but you hit hard times, so you can only get one toy line, or Jen only allows you to buy one toy line.
Yeah. I know that feeling. Now, it's funny that because I've got over 300 Black Series, and I've been collecting Black Series since day one, but it'd be Moto Origins. It would. I've got to admit, honestly, Stuart. I mean, I watched Pixel Dan going to Toy Fair, and he said they're going to be showing the new Moto figures, and I thought, oh, they'll probably do what Black Series has done, or they'll probably do what the vintage. They'll make these figures, but there'll be nothing like him and all that sort of stuff. Then I saw him, and I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's like they've taken the vintage figure and thought, how can we upgrade that? Not let's completely change it. Let's make it something different and so forth. You know, the Black Series is nice, like I said, and like I said, I've got over 300 of them. I absolutely love them, but there's no connection to the Black Series was when we were kids because we didn't have them. You know, they didn't even look like that. So when you look at these Moto Origins and then you see the work that's gone into them, but the nostalgia look of them, it's like these new creators at Mattel must loved the old line because, and then you bring out the ones like a Wundar you can already get on exclusive, or in the Sunman line and all that. But then you can take the arms and legs, the waists off, the heads off, and make your own figures. So the amount of customization you can do is just unbelievable. But everything, it's funny as well because the Grayskull is not the same Grayskull as it was when we were kids. It's a completely different design. So when you look at it, you think, oh yeah, it's not. It's a different size. Material is different. The actual design is different. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's so close to the 80s one.
Yeah.
And there's so many. Scuba sent me a Rio Blast, which was my favourite Motu figure there. Do you remember him? He's the guy with the moustache. It looked like Burt Reynolds had a moustache and the lasers are coming. Well, that's the thing. There's so many vintage down there as well, and they just work flawlessly. So unlike if you can't really put your Kenner collection with your vintage the TVC because they just don't match. They do a retro collection, so you can put them with it. But I think it would be this one. I think from now on, if I had to collect anything else, it would be this. It hasn't drove me crazy, Stu. I think that's what the thing is. I'm not searching for these figures. I'm not pulling my hair out because someone wants 40 quid for a figure. I'll give you a story what happened about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's the first time this has ever happened to me. We got into Target, me, G-Force, and Scuba Pete. So we got into this Target when they come to see us for the weekend, and G-Force had found the Mudhorn Mandalorian. It was a deluxe pack. It's the Mandalorian Black Series figure with all the mud down them and so forth, right? They had 2 of them in there. The thing about Black Series is whether you want that figure or not, because you collect them, you have to buy it there and then, because in America you'll never see it again. And guess what? I've never seen it again. So I picked this figure up and I thought, right, I'll get it and so forth. Go to the registration after tax, everything else. That figure just comes about 20 cents short of $40.
Wow, right? That's crazy, isn't it?
And it's the first time, Stuart, I felt proper robbed. And it took what it did, though, mate. It took the enjoyment out of it. And Scuba was laughing his head off and so forth, like, bloody hell, look at this. And I was like, man, it's not even, I mean, a couple of molds are different on the front where, his arm had been destroyed or whatever, but it's more or less the same figure. This is the 5th Mandalorian figure we've got in about 18 months. And I just thought $40 for that, man. And then I just watched Analog Toys do a video where they're $68 or more or less now and that's the funniest thing. You walk into a store now, like GameStop. GameStop probably is the one over here retail-wise that sells the most Black Series in the store. But then they have about 3 or 4 different prices: $22.99, $25.99, $27.99, $32. And you're like, I don't understand where all this is coming from. So Black Series, it's like having a girlfriend she's too fit to get rid of. You piss him off, but you're never going to get rid of her. So
it's crazy because do you remember HMV?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Well, they actually they're still in figures now. So they do they were going to go bye-byes, weren't they? They weren't going to go bankrupt and they were going to go completely. But they've started getting in different things. So they've started getting in toy lines. They've got a lot of Marvel, DC, the multiverse with McFarlane, and they've got a lot of Star Wars stuff as well. And I went in today and they've got the Boba Fett where he first gets his armor back at the end of Mandalorian season 2. Yeah, and they class that as a deluxe set, $37.99.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I just looked at the price. I just looked at the price, shook my head, and put it straight back. I thought, I'm not getting that. I've not got him, but I'm not. I don't want to pay that amount of money. It's just, like you said, it takes the fun out of it. It's just what the. I just
don't get it at all. And like I said, you know, I make my own money. It's not as if I can't afford these things and stuff, but I don't like that sense of, you know, if there's someone new in the collection, like you said, we've all been influenced by each other with collecting and so forth. So I would hate someone to watch, you know, a Universal Toy Collector video or a Reynolds video or a Shabby Geek video and think, oh, I'd love those Black Series. They're amazing. I'll start collecting them. And then the minute you buy a figure, it's nearly 30, 40 quid. And you're like, what? How many's a collector? There's this, and then there's exclusives everywhere, and then you've got to go here for that and here for this.
It never used to be, Shabby. It never used to be, did it? Never. I mean, they were reasonable prices. I mean, I thought, what, 20 quid the most a Black Series figure, or was it less than that?
They started off over here at 13 or 14.99, and the reason I remember that is because I wasn't on for it at all at the start. I was collecting the TVC. Yeah. To me, I was like, this is a novelty. This ain't going to last. How can a Star Wars figure be, you know? And then you say to yourselves, because obviously we grew up in the 80s, 90s, where there's vehicles galore. So you're saying, well, are they going to make vehicles for these? And they're like, no, I'm not interested in. And it wasn't until I saw the Han Solo. It was the Han Solo in his New Hope gear, but he come with a Stormtrooper belt, come with the leather gloves, come with 2. And I thought, this is awesome. I'll just buy the one. And then 300 after you still buy it. I just got this one. I mean, it's funny I'd say this because then you're going to Target and there's the Galen Erso, which is right there.
Yeah.
And he was only $11.99, $12, which is what, about 8 quid. Do you see what I mean? So it can't make it, but it's a shame that, you know, I would. It's like my kids watching The Mandalorian and so forth. It used to be a time where you'd watch a movie and your mum and dad would take you to the shop and you'd buy what you just seen. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? And so I can't do that with my kids. So when they sit there watching The Mandalorian, oh, Dad, I'd love to go and get a baby grow. Yeah, we'll get in the, you know, where are we going to find them from? You know, and then you're not really going to buy your kids a TVC at nearly $20 now and a Black Series at nearly $30. It's just not going to happen. So. It's
not going to happen. I mean, it's crazy because we went to a toy fair again yesterday and I met up with BOE.
Yeah, I saw the picture.
Oh, what a legend. Did
you go, hi.
Well, yeah, he did, but bless him. But they've got they had an auction and they had like vintage collection Star Wars figures and stuff on the original cards in cases and stuff like that. And some of them have still got the price tags on there. And I mean, there's a C3PO, I think it was, for 99p. 99p. Can you imagine a figure going for 99p these days? It's like
no time. Well, that's why I've got an issue with the price of vintage, especially when it's been looked after. You know, you have a lot of people saying, "Oh, Star Wars has gone through the roof now; it's ridiculous." Well, it's only ridiculous is what you want to pay for it for. So if you see, my brother's just done it. He bought a 1983 carded Biker Scout Return of the Jedi card, 65A back it was. And it's in pristine condition, this, and it was $180. And he bought it from a member of our community. And he absolutely loved it. But you're looking at something that price for something that's 40 years old. So within these 40 years, it's been looked after, it's been preserved, it's been, passed from collector to collector. What makes me laugh is a figure that's been out 8 months is now about $100. And I'm like,
I don't get it.
What? Do you know what I mean? That's the one that baffles me,
And people pay these prices, Shabby, and it's going to put the price up because whoever's bought it, someone else is going to look at selling it and go, well, hang on a minute. He's just sold the same figure as I've got. He's got 130 quid for that, but I'm going to push for 140, 150. People keep paying that money. The prices are going to go up, aren't they? I mean, but then the thing is, there's always going to be someone who's going to pay that. That's the problem.
They're always going to do it, my friend. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I will never ever tell people what to spend on their collection. It's completely up to them. But it just got. We were talking about it on the USR, and we were just saying it's just got to a point where it feels like you're being scared into buying it. It feels like you're being scared into pre-order, because if you don't do it, you're never going to find it, and then it's going to be 3 times as much. You know,
that's it.
Yeah,
I think that of it. Well, and then you got the scalpers on top of that as well, haven't you, and stuff like that. They're the ones pushing the prices up.
Yeah.
You know,
that's why I go to our site, like I said, my brother will always find me the Black Series over. I sent him a picture of a Cobb Vanth about a month ago, because Si was asking. He's going to Echo. The Echo's coming in a couple of weeks, and he said, "Is there anything at Echo you want me to get?" There was last time. Last time he got me the Fennec Shand from Echo, the Black Series Fennec Shand. Yeah. Over there, he got it for £18 at Echo. Even if it was £30 at Echo, I'd understand it's a convention in a way, you know what I mean? But it wasn't. 18 quid. I asked him for Cobb Vanth this time, and I sent him a picture. Why? It's a third party, but actually on Amazon, which is Walmart, I haven't got it. Target, I haven't got it, but Amazon did, for $74 for Cobb Vanth. $74. So it's like, and Si's like, "Can you not get it over there, Shabby?" And I said, "Yeah, I can get it." And I sent him the picture, and he was like, "No way, mate, no." And I said, "This is what it's like over here. It's so rare to find these in the shops, and when you do find them, you've got to snatch them up. If you don't, you're looking at these sort of prices." So
unbelievable, it really is. So, talking about the Black Series, how does the plastic-free packaging affect your collecting the Black Series figures?
It's going to affect it big time for me. I'm not a fan of it at all, and I tell you why. A couple of months ago, I'm not a Lego builder. I like Lego and admire it, but they made the small Lego pack, and it was from the Mandalorian, where Luke was fighting all the Dark Troopers, right? And it was a $30 set of Lego, and I thought that'll look nice. I've got loads of books, as you saw in the pictures, and I thought that'll look nice just on the bookshelf, right? So I get it, and I said to Suki, "Do you want to make a video?" And they said, "Oh yeah, no problem." So we're doing the box, and we're talking away on camera and so forth, and I opened it, pulled it all out, started to build it. Our Suki comes over and says, "Where's the figures?" So I looked down like that, and someone had taken all the figures out. There was no Dark Troopers, none of them. So there's meant to be 3 Dark Troopers in this set, and someone had obviously bought it, took the Dark Troopers, and put it back. I mean, I won't fall for it again, but you know, if you watch the video, you'll notice that someone had put sellotape on it and peeled it down. And so anyway, I took it back, so that's not the issue. But the issue to me is because I couldn't see what was in that box. So in other words, if I'm buying a Black Series now, I mean, it happens loads of times. There's the amount of times we've seen figures over here, and you see on Instagram and Twitter people sending pictures of like a Marvel Legends figure being where a clone trooper should be, because they don't care at Walmart. So they're not going to sit there and go, "Well, actually, let me make sure this is Obi-Wan Kenobi before we return it." They're not bothered at all. They'll return it regardless, you know. So it kind of puts me off that. And my Black Series, I open everything except for my Black Series. I'm an in-box collector when it comes to Black Series. Yeah. And it's because I just like I like pulling them out like a book and having a look at them, putting them back and so forth. And there's no love with that. You can't see the figure. You can't, you don't know what's inside, and you don't know whether the accessories are missing. And this thing about environment, I think it's the biggest load of bum crump I've ever heard in my life, because they've been doing that for years anyway. They have that PET sign, recyclable plastic thing in the corner. Yeah. And if it was saving the environment and it was saving a lot more money, why have they gone up by $8? We're paying for more or less repacks or repaints and remolds for $8 more than we have been doing, even though and here's another thing too, the boxes are so cheaply made. The quality of them is terrible. I mean, it really is. I got someone a Galvatron, the new Transformers, and I'm quite happy I got it, because this is the first time I bought a Transformer that's not in the bubble, that was in a box. The box was so flimsy, it's ridiculous. It was, and everyone says, "Yeah, but Shabby, when we were kids, the X-Wing came in a box, and Millennium Falcon and Lego comes in boxes." But every one of those things that I just mentioned were not meant to be displayed in a box. They were all meant to be open. You see what I mean? So I think it will affect me big time. I don't know. I think I agree with you, usual Mike. I think a lot of people will put a lot of people off. People are like looking at the figures, and people can say, "Oh yeah, but let your figures breathe, Shabby, or open them up, Shabby." But I think that takes away from your inbox collector. You should never tell anybody how they want to display and look after their stuff. So if there are people like myself they're in box. So it just ruins it. He wants to see a photograph on the front of it, and that's all it is. It's not even artwork; it's a photo. It's so yeah. What about yourself? What do you think of it?
Me, in a selfish way, it doesn't affect me too much because I open my Black Series anyway. I mean, there's a few figures that I will keep on the cards, you know, like the 40th anniversary of Star Wars Empire, all the exclusive card backs and stuff like that. And then you've got the ones that come in the white boxes. So I've got a couple of those. I'll want to be adding to that, so I'll keep them in the box. But the rest of them, I kind of open anyway. Nonetheless, I still do have a big sympathy for you guys because that could have so easily have been the vintage collection. You know,
you walked straight past them though. That's another thing, Stu. I remember the first things that came out in the boxes were the Transformers and the Thor figures. They were the 5 POA Thor ones, and they practiced with them. You walk straight past them. You don't. It doesn't stand out to you at all. Do you know what I mean? It's weird, and the worst thing about it is, as well as the way they're displayed on retail, when you've got two figures like the superpowers, the DC superpowers that they've just introduced, with the figure all there, and in the you can see the figure, you can see what it looks like, and then you just got a box next to it. It don't look right. It's not like, I don't know. I think it's an age thing, mate. You know, we've always grown up with seeing our figures, plastic bubbles. You know what I mean? And for them to do this, I mean, I understand and all that sort of stuff, but I just don't believe it's to save tax, isn't it? It's to get a tax write-off and do something. That's the only reason. Wow. The reason they say that is because Mattel aren't doing it. You know what I mean? Jazzwares aren't doing it. You know, there's only Hasbro that's doing it. So
it is, and it's I don't know. I think they've definitely pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, they have. I think it's not right what they've done.
It could have been worse because, like you say, you know, people like Tim and from Boss Bounty and Nick from Only One, they could have been affected, and everybody that collects a vintage collection, because they were thinking about getting rid of the plastic bubbles on the vintage collection.
Yes, they were.
And if they'd have done that, then I think it would have been a game changer for sure. And I think Hasbro, along with people from the Black Series and the vintage collection, they would have lost out on a lot of custom. They'd have lost out on a lot of money.
Well, you saw those deluxe boxes that came out, the Boba Fett one and the Ahsoka one. The Boba Fett come with a couple of helmets and so on. That box didn't do anything for me, really. I mean, it's not, you know, it was like, well, do you want, and Arsai said, he saw me, Ekon said, do you want me to grab one? I said, not really, mate, because they don't stand out. But the flip side of that coin is that you can't tell me that these G.I. Joe cards aren't as iconic as Star Wars cards to G.I. Joe fans. Of course they are. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's the big thing about them, you know, the big explosion behind G.I. Joe figures. I mean, I'm not a collector of them, but I started to collect the 3/4-inch classified line because I always remember the card and I thought, oh, I would be to have it myself. So I agree with you 100%. If they changed the TVC, that would have ruined that line. That line would have finished. I mean, so they had to keep hold of that. But it's weird now because when it first started to come out, they said, no, we're changing it all. Then it turned into, well, we'll keep hold of these, but we won't change these. And then everybody else is like, well, why not? I mean, I love my Black Series just as much as they love TVC. Yeah, but the card's more iconic. You just get into all that, don't you? So,
well, I mean, I've been guilty of saying that the card backs are more iconic than the boxes, but that still doesn't make it any easier for those people that do collect the Black Series. So I do really sympathize. You know, I mean, even the new boxes now with the new artwork. I mean, I do like them. I think those boxes are pretty cool, and you've got the clear front so you can see the figure. But you know, I don't know. I just don't think it's the same. I think it's important for people to see the figure because I want to make sure that they get a decent looking figure. Make sure the figure's there. Make sure the right bits are there.
I agree 100%. And I've been through that. Like I said, granted it was Lego, but I've been through it. You know, this ain't right. This isn't the right thing to do. I think what it will do, and I was talking to Matt at USR about this because he's also a Black Series collector like I am, it will limit the ones you buy now. So when these new boxes do come, the only ones I'll probably be picking up are the ones that I'm really sought after. Like the Mandalorian Luke is one of them that's coming. He's got his brown robe on and his black robe with his black outfit. That sort of stuff I'll pick up. But a robot that was in season 2 of Mandalorian for about 15 seconds, I'll wait till it goes on clearance. I'll wait till I won't be rushing out buying it. Why? Because I can't see it. So what's the point? Do you see what I mean? So
exactly. Right. Moving on. Next question. What were the reasons for you starting a YouTube channel and who were your influences?
Right. I've always watched YouTube. I always worked from home. I'd make my furniture and I'd have the toy lads on. Pixel, Boss Bounty, you know what I mean? Only One, Bioli, I mean, Retro Blasting. These kind of gentlemen, I loved the videos. Toy Galaxy, not necessarily over the fact that what they've got in the collection. I like the way they did the history of it. I like the way they talked about a different toy line and that kind of thing. Well, one night I was on it and there was a live stream on with a couple of British lads. There was it was called the Power Boys, and there was Matt on there. There was a guy called Darth Mark on there. So I was watching this and thought, oh, this is pretty good. And this was the first time I'd ever like interacted, if you will. I used to go into the chat and I used to have a chat to the lads. And well, I got a good rapport going and a good thing going, and they asked me to come on. So I came on, and it went down a storm. So without trying to be egotistical, they all liked me on there and said, "Oh, Shabby, you've got to stay on." So I stayed on for a while, and everyone said, "You've got to make your own channel, Shabs. You've got to make your own channel." So I did more or less what you did, really, and I think a few others ones. COVID, and I thought, well, I'll start a channel, I'll show my stuff off, you know what I mean? But what I wanted to do with mine is I didn't want it to be exactly the same as everybody else's. I didn't want to do, a figure that this is the 10th video this week of the same figure and the article. I wanted to make it more like a real variety performance. I wanted to put laughs and jokes, and I wanted to get my family involved. I don't look at YouTube myself as, for views and how big I can get in subs. I look at it as, again, like a memory. So in 10 years from now, I can hold my head up high and I enjoy watching my videos, watching my kids grow up and everything else. So it was the lads really that did it for me. And then I thought I'll make one or two and I'll leave it. And that was like, I think we're at 780 subs now, and we've just got up to 170 videos in about 2 years. I've just done my 2-year anniversary, so I'm enjoying it. And the thing about it though is I treat it as a hobby. It's not my main thing in life. I've got 4 children, my own business, that kind of thing. And so I don't have a time slot. It's not every Tuesday come and watch Shabby. I'll make them when I make them, and if people want to come along and watch it, and that. Influence wise, I don't think I've had anyone that has influenced me in YouTube, because if you've watched my videos, I tend to do my own thing. I don't. You don't see anybody else in a Shabby video. You don't see pieces of this, pieces of that. But I do enjoy people like Reynolds Reviews, Vintage Toy Rush. Do you know what I mean? Universal Toy Collector, that kind of. I like this. I like Chasing 80s. Chasing 80s is one of my favorites. I think the lads at Chasing 80s, Retro Blasting, Toy Galaxy, Pixel, then they've been doing it a long time. You have nothing but admiration for what those lads have done. But I like the smaller lads. I like the lads that are genuine. You can see the love of what they're doing. And you made a video a couple of weeks back where you were walking. You were just walking through a field. I love that. I think I sent you a picture and said, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. But I like that kind of thing where people are genuinely being themselves. They're talking about what this brings to us and what this means to us and that kind of thing. So I do take inspiration from people like that, but striving to be something on YouTube, no, it's not, I just make it.
It's difficult because I sat in my room in 2020 when we was in lockdown, and I had a pen, a pad, and I was writing all these ideas down about to start a YouTube channel. And I just didn't do it. I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or what have you. But it was Scuba Pete that got me back into it. He said, "Why don't you join the Instagram chat? Because we chatted previously before, and I kind of come away from it." And he said, join our Instagram group. A few people in there that we just chat. You don't have to post pictures or anything like that. And then I got chatting to the guys again, and I thought, oh, do you know what? This isn't so bad. And I thought, well, I've got a collection. And then Scuba said, well, why didn't you put your collection on Chasing 80s Toys? Me and Chris and Jeff will sort it out. And I was like, fantastic. Okay, so I did that. And then I thought, well, Pete, do you want to do a podcast or like a live stream, a monthly live stream? And he said yes. So we started off with that. And then as soon as I got the laptop, the speaker, and the setup, I thought, well, do you know what? I'm just gonna go for it, and I have. And it's hard work because you've got to try and. I don't want to be the same as everybody else. Do you know what I mean? That's why I don't do figure reviews and stuff like that. Now, I've got nothing against people that do figure reviews. You've got people like Tim and Nick that have been doing it a long time, and the guys that you've mentioned, they've been doing it for years, so they're established. And I think that's fantastic. And you know, and I've got a lot of time for them. I've got a lot of respect for those people, and you know, I like their channels and stuff like that, and I watch their videos. But for me, doing a figure review isn't really my cup of tea. And I know
I'm the same way. I'm the same. I didn't want to spend every week going, this is the ball joint, this is the ankle joint, this is the leg. I wanted to, you know, I know for a fact that I've always said one day if I don't enjoy it anymore, I can just walk away from it. You know, that's it. I'm done. So whilst I'm here, I'm going to enjoy the videos that I want to make, that I want to do. And I think our target audience, let's be perfectly honest, is probably 35 to 55. The majority of them are always going to be blokes, and the majority of them are always going to be toy collectors. Yeah. So if they're going to watch your video, this is, I think, why I try and be as genuine as possible in the videos, because people will see straight through you. If I'm going to sit there talking about G.I. Joe and saying to people like Stu, oh yeah, G.I. Joe and this and that, and I know I haven't a clue what I'm talking about, then you come across as a bit. So when I started mine, I wanted to be as genuine as possible. I wanted to learn. I get the piss taken at me every week on the Friday because I don't know about this, or I've not seen that movie, or I've not read that comic. But I'd rather be like that and learn than I would, I know everything and I'm the greatest thing I've ever known. But Scuba Pete makes me laugh. What he always used to say about Scuba before he joined Chasing 80s, he's the most popular and famous guy on YouTube who doesn't have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've heard you say that. Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely. But do you, with your channel then, I mean, I get the feeling sometimes, I mean, I've still got shitloads of boxes that I need to open up. Yeah. It's all I seem to be doing is putting out bloody boxes and stuff like that. And so once I've got those boxes opened, you know, in the next few weeks, then I'll be able to do some more stuff. I mean, I've got some other videos planned coming up, one for next week and stuff like that, which is going to be like totally different. But I mean, those walk and talks, it was just, I didn't even think anybody would like sort of like want to be interested in that sort of thing. So it's trying to find something different and but be yourself at the same time that people you think might want to watch. I mean, I know a lot of people have said do the videos that you want to do and do the stuff that you like to do, and I get that. So I mean, are you the same? You just do what you like doing and stuff, or do you worry about what people want to watch?
Not really. I mean, I always, if you actually go through a Shabby Geek catalogue, you'll notice that apart from one or two, there's never the same episode. There'll be an unboxing. There'll be something about Masters. There'll be something about Transformers. There'll be something about Batman. There'll be something. I want to make sure that every time people sit up and watch, and I try and do it from a thumbnail too. I don't really like putting what's going to be in the video in my because I want people to think, what's he going to show this week? Do you see what I mean? What's he going to do this week? I always put a funny sketch or a funny blooper or I'll do something silly in my videos, and I'll always put it in a different spot or a different place just to keep people entertained. I always looked at it and thought, what would I want to watch? Do you see what I mean? Well, you know, do I really want to sit there and watch this and that? And so I always did that about myself. But Chris Mira once told me something that was really, really impressive. It stuck with me for the past year and a half. I was talking about views and subs, and I was saying, you know, 1 minute you're up, and the next minute you're down. The next minute 500 people have watched. Next minute 20 people have watched. And you know, it's all a learning curve. You'll probably know this yourself, you know, only recently doing YouTube, that you learn every couple of times. You learn you know, what works, what doesn't. Well, Chris Mira once said to me, Shabby, I always found, he said, that you make the videos for the people that watch, not for the people that don't. And that just stuck with me all the way through. I thought that makes so much sense. Instead of sitting here worrying about who's watching and who's not watching, put the best you can into a video for the people that do watch. And I think after a while, like you were saying before about you on your walking video, people tend to watch your channel after a while because they like you. Do you see what I mean? So, and that's the thing. And if you've noticed, is the more and more, I mean, I remember last week you had Tim on, you had Only One on, you had, you know what I mean? You've met all these lads, and after a while, you watch these videos and it's your friends making them. It's not just, oh, it's that person and I watch this. You know what I mean? You get to know them, and you learn off other people. And you know, sometimes I remember once me and Jen made a video and she swore in it. And I don't know, man, it always stuck with me like, oh, do you know what I mean? But it was such a funny video, I didn't want to take it down. But I've never sworn since then, because I just thought, you know, my video is always for people older, but Lucy's in them and stuff like that. She does the Masters, and I didn't want that, you know. And I remember someone saying to me, "Oh, Shabby, we love it, but all the family get together and we watch your videos." And I thought, nightmare. So that was about a year ago, and I won't swear the video again, but it's things like that. as things progress and as you make videos, you start to learn more and more. You've probably done it yourself, where you watch your first couple of videos and you're like, oh man, what am I doing? They're so bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I hate watching myself anyway, so I just make the video and get on with it. But with as for language, I mean, yeah, I know that I've been guilty of dropping some F-bombs here and there and everywhere, but I don't want to. It's not going to be something like where it's going to be every single video and stuff like that. I mean, with that walk and talk when I was talking about the Oscars, I generally meant that. I definitely hate the Oscars. I cannot stand that program anymore, and it's such a shame. But anyway, moving on. It's gone past the hour, but who cares? It's my series. I can do what the F I like. So what the France are like. That's what I can do. Yeah, that's all good, man. All good. So question number 9. What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
It's weird, isn't it? It is an addiction, isn't it? And the funniest thing is, you'll get something, you'll go, oh, and you're excited, and then it's like scoring a goal at football, I suppose. You know, that adrenaline lasts about two or 3 minutes, and then you're on to the next thing. Do you know how many times it's like all those boxes you've got? Do you know what I mean? You'll open them up and you'll go, oh, and then straight away you're on to something else. But I think it's that. I think it's the adrenaline of it. You know, but that's one of the reasons, in a way, on the flip side of that coin, Stu, why I don't like pre-orders. Because I remember the 50th anniversary Lucasfilm, George Lucas as a stormtrooper. And I saw it, and I thought it's on the stormtrooper card, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be awesome. So I pre-ordered it the very first day. I didn't get it till last month. So practically a year after from Big Bad Toy Store. So the novelty wore off. So I've put it on my shelf, and it's been there ever since. Do you see what I mean? But I think, to me, it's the buzz in it. It's just I think it's that little bit of excitement. It's our drug, if you will. When you get something new, you've watched, you've watched things about it. You've seen the talk about it. You've ordered it in, and there it is. You've actually got it. So it's but it's funny. It's funny how. And I think as toy collectors, we buy so much stuff. You don't really appreciate it as much as you should. Do you know what I mean? It was all right when we were kids, because you remember the stuff you had as kids, because, like I said to you before, my friend, it wasn't as if we were going out every day buying them. So you'd have some of these toys for years, and they'd still mean something to you. Now you'll get something for like 5 minutes, and you're on to the next thing straight away.
Yeah. I get that. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I've still got loads of stuff that I've got stored away. I can't have room to do it. And I've recently had to take all my 5 POA figures down. The only 5 POA figures I've got are my vintage Kenner figures. The rest I've had to put in like a little container. And I was thinking about selling that, and I'm thinking, do I want to sell it though? Or do I keep it and just wait until I get a bigger place? And that's the thing, because I get quite attached to stuff. I don't want to sell anything, because I'm not in it to sell stuff. Do you know what I mean? I get it because I like it, and I genuinely like the stuff I buy. If I didn't like it, then obviously I wouldn't buy it. I'd like a bigger house to show my stuff off, or our stuff, should I say? Not my stuff, but our stuff. And but I don't know about you. Do you get attached to stuff? Can you get rid of stuff easily, or do you?
I remember you talk about this on your walk video, and I agreed. I think I left a comment as well. I agreed with 100% of what you've said. We've just recently moved. We moved into this house from next door, and I have a shed outside, just boxes and boxes and boxes full of figures, full of toys, full of this, full of that. The complete Force Awakens 5 POA, every vehicle, every figure that came out. Their first 100 vintage collection, that I opened them all up and put them in there. Power of the Force, so much stuff is ridiculous. About 2 months ago, there's a toy shop here called Papa's Pennies. It's a really good Mandy. She was going through some stuff, and she said to me, Shabby, if you ever want to get rid of anything, I'll buy it off you. And I came home and said to Jen, what should I do here? Because it's weird, because I know I'm not going to put it in the toy room. I know I'm not going to display it, because I've moved on from them, really. But do I want to sell it? I don't sell. I'm exactly the same as you, mate. I don't sell stuff. I don't buy to sell. I don't, you know what I mean? And then if you do sell it, how much is it worth, or how long have you had it for? Well, I sold about 2 or 3 boxes full of stuff, and I got about $500-600 for it, right? So I got more than what I should have, really.
Yeah.
And it felt really weird. And even now thinking about it, it still gives me like, oh, did I really want to do that? I'm just talking things like Power of the Force figures. I took the ones I wanted out, or 12-inch stuff like, you don't know why, but I agree. You get attached to this sort of stuff. I didn't get into this to sell it. I got into it. You hear so many people say, well, what happens when when you pass away, Shabby? I'll make sure my wife knows what it is, what it's worth, and that's that type of thing. But our Jen will probably sell it at a yard sale the minute I'm gone.
The question, that's a daft question. What's going to... I don't know. I'm not going to be
here. I don't know. Exactly.
Whatever happens, it's not going to affect us, is it? We're not going to be here. We can't take it with us.
I'd tell you what, though, Stu, what I'd probably do, or just to piss my wife off, I'd probably hire a big thing and get buried with it all, It's all good. But no, I agree, mate. It's hard to let stuff go, and it's like I said, I've got all that stuff in that storage shed, knowing I'm not going to put it out in my toy room, but knowing I can't get rid of it either, mate. And I know if I do, and those stories that you've seen it yourself, you'll hear some guy on YouTube and he'll go, I regret so much me selling that, and I wish I'd never got that. And then when I went to buy it back, it's 3-4 times as much, and that kind of thing, So it's hard.
I mean, I've sold some bits to Scuba Pete, and listen, I don't mind that. He's gone to a great home. I sold my Z Force collection, Z Force and stuff like that. I sold that to him, and I was walking through the toy for yesterday, and I saw the tank, and I was like, oh. But for me as a kid, I was into, like, it was G.I. Joe, not Z Force. So I got into Action Force and Z Force when it was the O-ring figures and not before. Yeah. So to me, and I didn't have it long enough to get attached to it. So it was kind of there displayed for a few weeks. I've still got photographs of it. And then I sort of moved it on. And it was the same with the SAS Force stuff. But again, I like what I buy, and I do get attached to it. But sometimes I know that, and this was the right thing to do to sell that, and it's gone to a good home with Scuba Pete. So I'm more than happy, and it looks good in his display. So he was happy with it. So
yeah.
Right, last question. We've gone over the hour, but like I say, it doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good. What gives you? Oh no, hang on a minute. I've just read that question. Right, I'll say that again. What does your collection mean to you, Shabby?
Everything. The world. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's when you're married and you work and you've got your kids and you've got your bills and everything. It's so nice to have a place of your own, if you will. Yeah. My wife has been. I don't know what your missus is like with yours, but she's not interested in all this stuff. But she's so supportive. She's given me one of the biggest rooms in the house to set my collection up, and she went out and got me a sofa and a TV and all that. And it's like, I'm not a drinker, I'm not a smoker, I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I don't go out partying, I don't go fishing for a weekend. This is what I spend my money on, and I enjoy it. I think we all need something, no matter what hobby you have, that you have for yourself. Do you know what I mean? So my kids are very respectful. We don't come in and wreck the place and that kind of thing. So it means the world to me. It has done since I was a kid. And I think not just necessarily your collection anymore. It's the people you've met, the relationships you've developed, and getting to know everybody else and so forth. You come into your toy room, if you will, or you look at your display cabinet or whatever, and it just gives you that feeling of happiness, I think, and that's what it means to me. I've never ever regretted doing this. I think it's one of the best things I ever did, was start collecting and keep on collecting, and so it means a lot. What about you? Does it mean just as much to you?
Oh, of course it does. Every time I walk in here, and I spend a lot of time in here now, because we've got I set up a little office and stuff like that. So we purposely set it up this way, but. Georgie is fantastic. I mean, she collects as well. I mean, she's got a lot of the Dark Crystal stuff and a lot of the Labyrinth stuff. Mm-hmm. She's got a sideshow Princess Leia's and stuff like that, because we had we loved Carrie Fisher. We were lucky enough to meet her, to get her autograph, to have our photos taken with her. So when she passed away, that was a big thing. So we done a what do you call it? Oh, bloody hell. Like in memory of her, we've got like a display in our memory with like a load of Carrie Fisher stuff and Princess Leia stuff. But I come in here and I can just spend hours just sitting here looking at my toys.
Yeah.
And the good thing, the thing I like is when I sit and look at my original vintage Kenner and just think there's nothing quite as nostalgic as sitting there looking at that. And as much as I love the design and the new looks of the figures and stuff like that and how they're articulated, nothing can beat that original nostalgia of looking at those figures.
It hits you in a different way. It really does. I mean, you can get the Legacy Falcon, and you watch Only One's video where he's got them both, the Galaxy's Edge one, and you think, look at that thing and the lights and the size of it and that. Yeah. But then you look at the Falcon that we had, and there's no comparison to me. Just the love that you have for that thing, and you know what I mean. I think 8 out of 10 of us would, if we had the choice between both of them, we'd always take the vintage one because it means more to us, if you will.
Yeah,
you know
I mean, so people our age definitely, but I mean, you if I was a kid today, and I would see the figures that are available today, the vehicles, the play sets, the quality, how they built.
Oh yeah.
If I look at them today, then look back at what we had as a kid. You're going to think as a kid today, there's no comparison with the new stuff because that is far superior and better than the old stuff. But what they don't have is that those memories and that nostalgia when that film first came out and that toy line first came out. And it's the same with like the original G.I. Joes, the original He-Man figures. You know, anything back from the 80s, you look back and you think, look at those toys. This is what we had as a kid. You know, our kids today, when they're our age, going to look back and think this, that, and that. I mean, quite possibly, you don't know, do you?
I don't know that way because I mean, the past 4 years, if you think about the toy lines that I just bought over the past 2 years, Transformers, He-Man, Star Wars, Ghostbusters, the same ones that we had as kids. So in a way, I suppose that's why we've never really grown up, because we've grown up with these franchises all the way through, and I think that's why they mean so much to you know, we're not sat there thinking, oh, I mean, we had your dark times between 85 and 94, I suppose, when Star Wars had died off, but it hadn't. You had your Timothy Zahn books, then you got your Dark Horse comics, and the Power of the Force came. Now we're into Black Series, TVC, and so forth. So somewhere or other, over the 40 years of us collecting and loving this pop culture stuff, it's never left us. We've always managed to get hold of it, you know. Even the Turtles now have started to redo the party wagon, and the you know, the original figures are all coming back, and I think it's an amazing thing. It just goes to show that it, you know, the people like ourselves that absolutely love these franchises and keep them going, to share them with different generations. I think it's brilliant. You know, that our kids know who Optimus Prime is, or He-Man is, or do you know what I mean? Luke Skywalker is. I love that.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you 100%. And it for me, it's also the community as well. I mean, I get to meet people like yourself. I mean, going back to your channel, it generally does make me smile every time I watch your channel, mate. So you just don't ever change. Just carry on doing what you're doing.
I never will.
Dookie on there, Jen on there, and Lucy,
little Lucy. Yeah, well, Lucy was the same as me. She loves the Masters figures, loves them. So I thought, I've got to do them with her. And I talked to Jen first, you know what I mean? And she said, yeah, of course we can. So that's why she's only in the Masters Universe ones, you know. And then I put my kids in like cameo ones and here and there. I did a video with my oldest son. He doesn't really, he's more of a gamer than he is toys, but he bought the Mezco Wolverine for his birthday. But he made a video with me. And so that, what a lovely memory, you know what I mean? That he wanted to share his birthday gift with his dad, and we made a video of it. And getting my family involved is massive. It really is. I mean, they've all been so supportive and so. But that's a nice thing to say, man. I've always said it. If I can just put a smile on one person's face, and you know, my videos, if they're only watched by 5 people, they're worth making. So,
no, you're doing a great job. With that, mate, it is, you know, that's unfortunately the end of the chat. So, where can people find you?
It's pretty straightforward. All it is, you just go onto YouTube and just write in Shabby Geek. That's it. 2 words, Shabby Geek, and you can find me right there. So, and then on Twitter, it's the same thing, Shabby Geek. Instagram's the same thing. Facebook's the same thing, Shabby Geek.
Awesome. Okay. Well, what I'll do when this video drops, I will be putting all your links on the description. If you haven't seen Shabby's channel, highly recommended. It will put a smile on your face. Absolute top bloke. It's been absolutely fantastic. Love chatting to you, mate.
Thank you, buddy.
Fantastic. It's gone so quick, and that's the trouble with these series. You get chatting to people, and time just flies. But unfortunately, that's the end of the chat. So all I can say is thank you guys for watching. Check out Shabby's channel and the rest of his social media, and we shall see you in the next video.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.